And there's a QR code for you to join, and I also have my contact information there. I'll be around to answer questions at the end, and we have a table there too. So I hope that helped you. If you took the lead quiz, now you know all the answers to the quiz. I'll be glad to address any questions at the end. So thank you for your time and attention. Director Laura Werner from the Delaware County Health Department, who is here offering free lead testing for children 6 and below today. So this is their kickoff to their lead testing campaign, and I'm just so thrilled and so honored that they pulled out their resources to come today to kick it off. So thank you so much.
Hi there. Thank you for having me. I'm going to sit here because I'm more bashful than Kristen, and I just got to behind the table. Seriously, thank you for having us here at the health department. And I mean, Dr. Motley gave you that really incredible overview of why we're worried about lead still. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the county, give you some of the numbers, what the problem looks like both in the county and here in Chester. I know numbers can be kind of boring sometimes, but they really help us measure our progress, right? We want to attack this problem, we want to get better at it, so we need to understand how bad it is. So, as Kristen said, we've seen childhood lead poisoning decrease over time. We're really happy about that, but there's still too much of it. We still have children in our county and here in our city here that are getting poisoned. We did release a report just this past October summarizing the most recent data that we have. There's a little bit of a lag in our ability to record and analyze data, so the most recent data we have is from 2022. A copy of that report, if you really want to geek out, is here. I made a number of those, or I'll talk about some of those numbers here. So what did we find? It's definitely eastern, southern, and central parts of our county that have the highest numbers of children that are being poisoned. Like Dr. Motley said, no level of lead is safe in a child, but we use a level of 3.5 micrograms per deciliter in a child's blood to say it's elevated or not. So you'll see me refer to that number a few times. Now, most of the children with elevated blood lead results in our county are 6 and less, but we had 13 in 2022 that were higher than 25 micrograms per deciliter. That's just terrible news. That's a terrible tragedy for that field. This is a picture that kind of gives you that tail. You can see again, this is all children who had an elevated result, and you can see that most of them are at this end of the lower levels, but we still see this getting to those very higher levels towards the side. Dr. Motley went over some of this. Who do we think are most at risk for these higher levels? People living in older homes, children who are younger, low-income households, immigrant and refugee children, pregnant individuals. People that are involved in lead-related hobbies or occupations that can bring lead into the house, and of course plumbing as well. This map just shows you the age of housing in our county. Those darker colors are the oldest houses. This is why we're still struggling with this problem. Older housing can be wonderful. It's better built than some of our newer housing, but it can have this legacy of old lead. So the numbers, I said I was going to get geeky on you. So we tested, we have tests for 9,438 children from 2022. For children, we get at the health department, we get results directly from providers who take the test, or from the labs that analyze it, and that goes to the state and it comes to us at the county health department. So we feel pretty confident we're getting all those results for tests that are done. We get for children 15 and under. That's 10% of that population of children across the county. In the city of Chester, there were 819 children who received a test. And it's slightly better than countywide for that population. That's a 12.5% testing rate. This map shows you where these tests are. It looks really light on that screen, but the darker colors are where there were more tests. It's going to follow where there's more people, but there's also areas where health providers are doing a better job getting the word out to do testing. So what did we know about numbers of kids that were poisoned? Countywide, 307 out of those 9,000 tests had a result that was of concern. So that's 3.3% of those kids. In Chester, there were 33 out of those 819. So a higher overall percentage than we saw countywide, 4.3%. Again, this shows the distribution of those the children with poison levels of concern. And this is specifically for the city of Chester. These aren't individuals, and I'm never going to show you individual results for a household, but we made what we call a heat map, which kind of obscures the data, but you can see roughly where we were seeing more children in the city that had a higher level of lead. And this was for 2021 and 2022. What can we do about it? What do we need to do? Well, more than anything, like Dr. Miley said, we want to prevent it from happening at all. So how do you do that? You find those lead hazards as you home and you mitigate them. And unfortunately, it's not something you can do usually by yourself as a homeowner. You need to involve experts to do that, to do the testing and assessment. And there's different kinds of ways to do that. Once an exposure has happened, you can do some things to still help the child. You can give your child healthy foods. You can make sure that you're washing their hands a lot. You can wet clean. You can use a HEPA vac. It's kind of a more expensive kind of vacuum. We have a couple of those here. You can cover peel and paint with tape or paper. But secondary prevention, also in the category of secondary prevention, is getting your child's blood tested. And you know, it is showing that the problem has happened, but it's still very, very important to find that out, so at least then we can take some of the measures to address the problem. So we want to make that something that Dr. Motley has really emphasized. We want to do everything we can. We're doing the sprint with this project that proposed with the Swarthmore Black alumni. How can we really increase testing here in the city of Chester? There's two ways to get a test. There's a capillary sample, which is the finger stick, which we're doing right here today. There's also a venous blood draw, which is a little more accurate. Both can give you a valid result. Lead testing for children enrolled in Medicaid, it's covered, it's free, and most private insurance, it's free as well. And if you have any trouble with your provider getting that test, please call the health department. We will arrange to help you get that test. So just to give you a little bit of background what your health department is doing to address this problem, we have several of my team members here. I'm so grateful that you're all here. Wave from the health department. And the Cornell Child Health team is monitoring all those results I've been showing you. All those children that get it, we get every test from 0 on up. But if it's above 3.5, they're contacting those families. We're talking to them about what that result means and what they can do. Our population health team is out tabling, getting information and outreach out. And our epidemiology team is just combing through this data, trying to look for trends and things that we can take action on. And writing that FAT report I told you. We can't do this alone. This is such a complicated problem. We need to work with just partners all over the place to try to tackle this problem. We need to work with families directly. We need to work with health professionals. We need to work with landlords. We partner with the Delaware County Office of Housing and Community Development, the Community Action Agency of Delaware County, local housing and code officials, and nonprofit foundations and organizations. So we've got one stop number for you at the health department. It's this 484-276-2100 number. You can call that if you have anything you want us to help you with, immunization, lead, whatever it is. Just call that number. We're going to find you who can help you. You can also email us, but that number is an easy way to get any one of us. And one of the things you can ask us for is, I need a blood lead test. We also were really excited to be partnering with the Delaware County Office of Housing and Community Development this year on a new grant. The county had this before, it lapsed, we're bringing it back, and it's going to bring more resources here for families that want to address the lead hazards in their home. There's already an existing program that's administered by the Community Action Agency of Delaware County, and we refer families to them all the time. So it's a way to get free access to resources to address these pain hazards. That was all I had. So I'm going to pass it to Rosemary Hall, our Board of Health Chair, and also from Children for Purple Hat.
So I'm Rosemary Paul, and I'm from Children First. Just a little bit about Children First. It's a nonprofit that advocates for children's issues around education, health, and justice issues. So just want to let you know some of the things that we have successfully done. 2023, we helped get the City of Chester lead ordinance passed. We had the universal lead bill passed in Philadelphia, and also helped in other parts of the state, including Norristown and Montgomery County, and Lehigh and Northampton. But we're also working hard on other parts of Delaware County. You have to go municipality by municipality in Pennsylvania to do this, so we continue to do that. Some of the things you heard already, 70% of the houses in PA were built before 1978, 81% of the houses in Delco, and these are like 7,000 children tested positive for lead in Pennsylvania, and 60% of the children in Delaware County are not tested for lead. I think that's really, really important to keep in mind. And we rank 5th in Pennsylvania for lead poisoned children in Delaware County. So we already kind of went over, there's lots of sources of lead out in the environment. But the one thing I'm going to highlight right now is lead gasoline tied to over 150 million excess cases of mental health disorders in a recent study. So not only are we exposed through all the ways that we've talked about, through paint, through pipes, through some foods, but before the gasoline was banned with lead in 1996, the city of Chester residents, right by the I-95 corridor, were exposed in really high doses. And so that's another thing that we should be thinking about and studying in more detail and really getting to the root cause, because now it's becoming a multi-generational impact. And many of the things that Dr. Motley talked about is true for lead paint, but this exposure really, when I heard this, just gripped me about thinking about Delaware County and particularly the city of Chester. Next one. And as we said, children of color are disproportionately impacted because they are more likely to live in older properties with deteriorated lead-based paint, and Black children are harmed 4 times more in Hispanic children and 2 times more than white children. So again, this injustice of the issues around lead-based paint and the properties not being remediated properly or at all. So we're driving a lot of change at Children First. As I mentioned, one of the things that we're working on right now is a Pennsylvania Department of Health grant. So we're helping municipalities like the city of Chester and Delaware County on some technical assistance around how to improve testing rates, how to improve education, community education, and connecting the partners. We're also lead the Lead Free Promise Project, which I'm going to talk about, which has 70 coalition members and is across Pennsylvania. Okay. The Lead Free Promise Project, this is the thing I was just talking about, that we have this grant, and we're going to be working closely with your community. We just presented at a local poster presentation, and next one. So why is this worth the investment? For every dollar spent on removing lead paint-based hazards in a home, $17 to $221 would be returned in health benefits, increased IQ, higher lifetime earnings, tax revenue, reduced spending on special education, and reduced criminal activity. A lot of things that Dr. Motley said, but it's really important to keep in mind that there is this huge return on investment to the whole community, not the individual child. Over 70 Lead Free Promise Project coalition members, and some of them are here tonight. So very happy to have those working with us every day to fight for children in Pennsylvania. So we do have on our website for the Lead Free Promise Project, we have a lot of great resources for families and for people in the community. So if you're interested, just put in Lead Free Promise Project into your screen, and this will come up. You can find, we have a toxic lead information sheet for families that we also share to educate elected officials. And we also have a resource guide for case management of the child. Next slide. And all these other resources are also there. So I encourage you to really check it out if you can. And next slide. So the big thing I really want to go over tonight is back in 2022, we worked with the newly formed Delaware County Health Department to formulate an action plan to prevent childhood lead poisoning in Delaware County by 2027. And tonight's event is a really good example of how that can be moving forward. But our basic goal was to remove lead paint hazards out of homes, to ensure all children are tested for lead and improve their health outcomes, to communicate effectively with county stakeholders about lead poisoning prevention, treatment, and resources, and secure sustainable funding for lead prevention, intervention, and remediation. So these were our top goals when we formed this. This is the idea of what we're working towards, and communities like the City of Chester are critical that we really want to help you advance the things that you're trying to do as well, which align with everything here. So, the Lead Free Promise Project advocacy goals, so this is for the whole state, is we are asking for $1.5 million for communication and education on childhood lead poisoning. And that money would go to the Pennsylvania Department of Health, hopefully to filter out to the local communities to provide additional education. That's an ask for the Pennsylvania budget that's coming out. We're also asking for $15 million in state tax credit for homeowners and landlords to incentivize remediation of dwelling places. And the reason we're asking for a tax credit, so there are programs like one we have in Delaware County that are HUD programs, and there's also programs through the Community Action Agency. However, many families don't qualify for those programs, or the landlord doesn't qualify for those programs. So this we felt was really important, missing link into connecting families to resources that they could use to advance and fixing up their homes and working with their landlords. And then we're going to try, we have a bill that we have tried to pass for the past 4 years to reintroduce the childhood lead testing bill, requiring all children to be tested for lead in Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania right now, it's not required for children to get tested unless they're on Medicaid or a CHIP program. But right now, the ideal is that you have 2 tests before the age of 2. And so that's the gold standard. And as we said, 60% of the children in Delaware County are not tested. So we have a long way to go. And the importance of testing is really the earlier you detect lead, the more resources and prevention that we can do to help the child from having a higher lead level and to getting and to start reducing the lead in their body, which takes a long time. And as Dr. Motley pointed out, lead is heavy, it stays there, it's not going anywhere. So we want to get that detected as soon as possible. So we also are trying to work with our legislature to make sure that pregnant women are also tested, and that would be a critical piece for the legislation that we're trying to get moving. And then that's it. So we just want to ask, in addition to working collaboratively, we're working with Dr. Motley and with the Delaware County Health Department, with our other partners. So we want to make sure that we all work together. And the Lead Free Promise Project Coalition, as I said, is a statewide coalition advocating for state issues around lead, for funding, for education, and for screening and prevention. The Delaware County Lead Prevention Coalition also is run by Children First. And so we're working closely on that action plan that we have. And we hope to have another meeting again about that action plan this year. And we have lots of other things going on again that we're working closely on, the grant that we're working in Pennsylvania to help local municipalities and counties improve lead. A lot of stuff going on. I really appreciate all of you coming out tonight because it's a cold night and there's a lot of things. Your commitment to this right now is so impressive. So thank you for having us. And I believe, Kristen, I'm supposed to say if anybody have any questions. Oh, sorry.
So in the beginning, I spoke about being a co-lead on this task force with Dr. Motley. My former role is chair of the narrative committee, and so that committee is responsible for ensuring, one, that parents and community members are engaged in this process, but two, ensuring that we're working collaboratively as a unit regardless of school, type of school. So we have here with us the head of school for Chester Charter School for the Chester Charter Scholars Academy. So Mrs. Watts, if you would like to come up and say a few words on
Can I
behalf.
speak from here?
You can.
Okay. So I have a big educator mouth, so I'll just say, first of all, good evening, everybody. Great to see you. Thank you to Tasleen and all of the folks working on this really important issue. As a person who's been working in Chester for over 13 years now, obviously this is an issue that has significant impact for our children, their families, and it's one that I'm excited is getting a lot of focus from folks here who care, who have the knowledge, expertise, and partnerships also with great organizations to bring additional services, but also greater advocacy for issues that really impact our students' overall performance, well-being, and health. So I'm just glad to be looped into this, and then also looking forward to where things go and how we might be part of the effort going forward. So thank you.
Oh, you were just gonna take questions.
Yes. Kristen, you gotta come up.
So before we take questions, I'd like to thank everyone. Again, I don't know if we go back to the beginning of the presentation. So yes, this is again to thank everyone, all of our partners that were here today. Again, we had the opportunity to go to Swarthmore because of the Swarthmore Black Alumni Association. And at that time, again, working with Mayor Roots and his team, so Dr. Motley leading that effort around the lead, a lead-free Chester is what we want to see. And so I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge the City of Chester, Delaware County Health Department, Lead-Free Promise Project, and again, the partnership with our charters as well, because they are all of our children, and this is something we want to tackle for all of our children. So thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over for questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes.
I do. First of all, I'll comment. I'm pleased to hear that 2 medical providers insisted that children get tested. But are the pediatricians pushing this as well? I mean, the importance
Yeah.
of this?
I think that's really, just say from the statewide, we work with the PA chapter of American Academy of Pediatrics, and they are really trying to remind pediatricians about the importance of testing. There is some confusion just because of the way Pennsylvania does this. Remember what I was saying about Medicaid and CHIP is mandatory, and then other children it's not. There's a screening test that a lot of doctors, verbal screening that they use, and so sometimes it's confusing to the doctors and to the families of when they can ask for a test. And so we're trying to just make that easy. Every child has to be tested for lead, and you have the right to ask for your child to be tested. So even if you feel like the child got the 2 tests and now there's an exposure or you see something that's different, you have the right to ask for a lead test.
I would just say that I think it's on us as well to make sure that the pediatricians know exactly what Rosemary mentioned, and that's a part of our work is to make sure that they know. Because a lot of times, like I just have not heard, me as a pharmacist and doing consumer education credits for years, I've never seen any consumer education on lead or really on the environmental hazards to health at all, really. So I just feel like there's a gap in knowledge for healthcare providers. They just don't know, or they're not paying attention. I don't know what it is, but we have to get them caught up on this.
That is definitely one of the health department's goals for 2025. We're going to roll out this education campaign, and we're going to keep trying to talk to those health professionals, because you're right. I mean, I know when my kids were young, my pediatrician said, no, you don't need it. I think that's something you hear over and over again, and not just in our county, but it's an education issue that we're going to keep trying to hammer. I know you've dealt with it down at Howard as well.
Any other questions?
I do want to recognize Dr. Marilyn Howard is here. She's done a lot of work over the years in the environmental health space, particularly in Chester, so she can answer a lot of these questions herself. But thanks for coming, Dr. Howard.
Can I just ask, what would be one immediate action step if all of us in this room were to take one action? What would be like a powerful next step for children? If you had to pick one in the work that you're doing.
Oh, man. For me, the thing that comes to mind first is just getting the kids tested. We cannot do anything if we don't even know what their lead levels are. And I hate the idea of using children to find out if there's lead around. But we are so behind on testing. So many of our children are not being tested, and so you can't work to fix the problem if you don't even know the extent of the problem. So encouraging parents to ask for a lead test. Encouraging parents to insist that their child is tested for lead and not take no for an answer. And if a pediatrician is telling them no, they need to contact us and we will educate the pediatrician. So we need kids to get tested for lead, in my mind. There's a lot that needs to be done, but we can't help to solve the issue until we know the extent of the issue.
Good evening. What about, y'all say y'all so behind, that means you have actual adults
Yes.
actually walking around here in the city. So y'all gonna roll out, are they gonna go community to community and actually talk to all the adults and ask them? I mean, because we have people in the community here, so it's good to see a face. Because sometimes they be like, nah, that's not really real. That's one of the problems that we have in the distrust with the different communities in the city. So y'all want, I think that's what Stuart said, y'all want to do like boots on the ground type of campaigns?
Yes, we are going to be boots on the ground, neighborhood by neighborhood, taking the mobile clinic and telling people come outside and get tested. We are going to be in the community, popping up. And yes, absolutely. And I'm concerned about the adults too, because just like Rosemary said, for years diesel fuel was used and it had lead in it, and just car gasoline had lead in it, and that lead dropped to the ground. And it was, people were exposed to it all over the country. But communities like this were in particular risk because of the highway, because of 291. And so we are not surprised when we see high rates of kidney disease and high rates of heart disease and all of that. Lead has contributed to that because people were just exposed to it for so long. And so I'm concerned about the adults too. So we have to start somewhere, and we're going to get it done.
I don't remember ever having a lead test, and I'm born and raised here.
It's usually done as a child. Adults aren't typically tested routinely unless there's a clinical reason to test.
We're gonna let Marilyn answer that because she's the expert.
So, the reason we don't routinely test adults is that if you're lead poisoned as a child, you may have very high lead levels, and actually that if you don't get rid of that lead as you go, because you do get rid of a little bit of it, it settles in the bones and teeth. And so your lead level in your blood as an adult may be absolutely normal, but you might still have that in the bones. And it's not that it's affecting you necessarily that much, but we have seen studies where people who had that earlier lead exposure have more dementia. They have more high blood pressure. They have trouble with their kidneys. So we don't know everything about that yet, but the one thing I would say about adults is there are a lot of jobs that can expose you to lead. Anybody who gets involved with construction or like the people who worked on the bridges, all the bridges around, all that paint still has lead because it's the most durable. That's why they still use the lead paint. And anyone who does any kind of scraping or any of that, they're exposed. And there are ways that they should be protected by their employer and do it safely. There are safe ways, but not every time is it done as well as it should be. And so anyone who has those kinds of jobs should be getting tested because they're getting exposure right now. But their blood level might be normal if they didn't have any exposure since being a child.
Thank you. I'm just going to quickly tell a real quick little story that I've shared earlier how the facts have come out. So let me tell you, it's real. So when you talk about it may show up in many different ways as you become an adult, dementia and things of that nature. So that answers me why I can't remember anything. But however, I was about between 15 months old and 18 months, and I was one of 5 children, the youngest. And my siblings was getting me ready for church, and I kept falling down, and they kept standing me up, saying, "Okay, stop playing, we gotta go. Mom and Dad is waiting, we're running late." What they didn't know is that I had lead poisoning. So the last time they went to stand me up and my legs collapsed, they realized that there was a problem and they immediately got me to the hospital. I spent about 2 to 3 months in the hospital and I had severe lead poisoning. Being the youngest of 5 siblings, crawling around on the floor, lived in West Philadelphia in a large home that was all lead-based paint. We're talking about 67 years ago. So it was definitely all lead paint back then before it was durable, and that's what they were using. But I say it's real. So if you think, oh no, not my house, not my child, you'd be surprised what children put in their mouth and no one knows what you're eating. You know, and they're crawling around, and it could be lead-based, it could be lead-infested. So I encourage you to take this message back to all your family, to all your friends, your neighbors. It is critical that we get our babies out and have them tested. I'm just blessed that I had no long-term effects from it other than what they caught initially. But after that, I had no more side effects of it. So just know that it is real. So yeah, but I am definitely a survivor of lead poisoning. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And you said 2 things to take away. I think one is assume it's lead paint in your home and be careful and do the, get it evaluated and checked and don't just scrape it willy-nilly and get your child tested. Those are the 2 things I want people to carry back.
I have another question. One of your slides had, I call them pouches. I see a lot of young parents buying those pouches.
The applesauce pouches, yeah. There was a recall earlier, it was last year, where some of that applesauce, it was the cinnamon in it. It was applesauce, the cinnamon was contaminated with lead. Those products had to be recalled, and we did see some of those exposures here in Illinois.
Like some from Chester resident also, senior citizen, and don't know much about that. Prayer for me that I don't have that. I read that. I need to ask my doctor next time I get my But seriously, thinking about Detroit, which I think of lead, you think about pipes. Of course, that's in our communities and all, that's a major problem, right? And Chester falls under that umbrella. That's what I see as, of course, that's a great investment along those lines. What can you say to that? Because, and then in reference, again, I don't know how it's been addressed in Detroit. I assume it's being worked on, so it's out the news, so, life is going on and all that. It's kind of weighing on that, especially, it's one thing to be tested, and it's another thing to see the pipes that we have out there as another, more or less, big elephant, that has to be addressed.
So the question is about the pipe, and so the water that comes from Chester Water Authority is tested. The problem starts with the pipes at the home. So the pipes that are owned by the homeowner could be lead pipes. They very likely are, because this is a really old town. The good thing is that there is funding available to replace the pipes. So there's millions of dollars that has been left at the state because people are not taking advantage because they don't know, or for whatever reason, they don't take advantage of it. A huge problem in Chester is that a lot of the properties are rental properties. And so you have to get the owner to agree to whatever the terms are to do the replacement, and that's where you get a lot of pushback, and you can't get, it's hard to advance that. But I am here now, and I am not taking no for an answer from homeowners. I'm just not, because it's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. It's millions of dollars on the table, and it will get sent back. It is not coming back. It's not coming back. We can forget all the EPA, environmental justice stuff. Whatever is available now needs to get spent down. It needs to get spent in Chester, and so we're trying to work with the homeowners, but most importantly, letting the community know that these funds are available. This is the number that you call. So we are working on that. So that's a great thing, because for a while, we didn't have the money, but the state has the money and they want to spend it. Did you want to add something, Dr. Howard?
Yes, I couldn't agree more, but I just wanted to say, you all can go home tonight and check to see if you have a lead pipe? It's really easy. You need to find out where the water line comes into your house. Often it's the basement. When you find it coming in, you take a coin, any kind of coin, and scrape it a little bit, because it's always a little crud, it's got some crud on it. If it's silver, if it's gold, first of all, it's not lead. It's probably, something else, copper. If it's silver, it could be lead. So what do? Next? You get a refrigerator magnet and see if it sticks. If it sticks, it's magnetic, which means that it's likely to be galvanized, not lead. If it doesn't stick, then it could be lead. It's likely to be lead if it's silver. So just those two things. If it's silver and the magnet doesn't stick on it, it's likely to be lead. And one thing you can do in the meantime, before you go through the whole getting rid of the pipe, which of course is a good idea, is you can run the water for a few minutes before you use it when it's been sitting in the pipe. Because that's really the issue. The water gets the lead in it when it's been sitting there. So if you run it for a few minutes, 3 minutes usually is enough for most houses, like in the morning, like where it's been sitting all night, or maybe when you come home from work. Those would be the times you want to run it. Once you run it and been using it, it's okay. Okay.
Can they do like how we have the Chester channel? A lot of people look at the City of Chester Incident channel, and a lot of people would take on that initiative themselves if you gave them step by step. We have to make it simplistic, for them to go in, to say what the water line is, maybe what your water line looks like, and these 3 steps can be taken. If you are unsure, you can contact this and we can help you.
That's a great point, and I had a meeting at Chester Water Authority today about this same thing, so I'm glad you brought that up. And they spent probably tens of thousands of dollars on mailers that they sent to every Chester resident, and they've been putting notices in the bills. So 3 bills had notices, plus they sent out the mailers, and they have gotten no response. And I said, we are going to do something different next time. So I'm going to be working with them to change their strategy so that people know. But it had on the mailer, I saw the mailer. Step 1, look for the lead line. Step 2, take a coin and scrape it. Step 3, so it's there, but the way that they got the information out was just not the best way for this particular community. And we're just going to pivot. They are on board to pivot, and so just need a little time. But we don't have a lot of time because it expires at the end of June.
Okay.
So I'm like, we don't have a lot of time. We got to get this word out. Yes, boots on the ground is exactly what I said. So we don't have a lot of time because the money dries up in June, and whatever's not spent is going back to the EPA.
No, we got work to do.
And the EPA might not even exist. It could be going already. I don't know. It's just crazy.
I recommend maybe, so like one of the things I know often happens within a school is that when children are educated about something and they have new knowledge and are excited, they'll go home and talk to parents about it. So what if we did a full-on like education of all children about lead impact? And we're K-12, I could see it being done developmentally for all grade levels, and then sent home a letter with the child's coin with step-by-step instructions and said, please do your test at home, and then what we could do is maybe turn it into a homework grade across the city, and then we could have like a full sheet where all that data, like your test, did you do it, your address, did you find lead or not, as maybe a way to like collect information. There may be some privacy issues you could maybe figure out.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I love the idea of starting with the children and taking them at home. I think it'll be incredibly effective. So yes, let's talk
and
about.
And then there could be like another piece that's, talk to your doctor about
Yes.
whether there's something to.
Yeah.
But I think it might be a way to get like a broad stroke and also create, some buzz across the city about this concern quickly.
Genius. That's why I love spaces like this, because people just have great ideas, and I think that we can absolutely pull something like that off. Absolutely.
I have a program already done in Philadelphia, we'd be happy to come to your school and do it anytime. If we can test soil for lead, that's often of interest to children, and also we also can test water.
And also, I missed
Water.
We test water.
And we're happy to come and talk. And we have lots of little lead show and tell things that we can bring. So I'll give you my card and happy to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome. I also want to mention there is also funding to put water filters in the schools. So I've had a couple meetings about that, and I'm trying to direct all of that money to Chester, Pennsylvania. So we're trying to get water filters in the schools as well as in the daycare centers as well. There is money that we're not going to get back, and so we need to exhaust all of it.
If you know somebody that owns a daycare center, they contact you.
They can. Yeah, they
I know
can.
some people own daycare.
Please send them my way. Yep. Yes. My on my last slide has mine. You can take a picture of that slide that has my information. You can call or text me or email. I'm slow on email. I'm really slow on.
Yeah, I know, it's better to text. Yeah, text. Thank you all. And thank Kristen for putting this all together.
Thank you for coming out.